Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3 of Navigating Aquatics with Ace. As always, I'm Tom. I'm joined by Phil in New Zealand and Wes in Chicago. How are we doing, guys? Good?
Yeah, not bad. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Right, today, your 10 minutes you're going to get with us and with Ace is going to be all about money. Obviously, pools need to make money. You need to stay open. And Ace is a good tool for that. So without much further ado, we kind of want to dive in, show you how to build a budget. And Wes, you can kind of take from there and kind of walk people through, if you were running a pool, how would you budget it and go from there?
And you're right. A new year, new money, new dollar. Everybody I talk, how do we make the dollar? How do we not cover the pool up and make it pickleball? And that's really what it comes down to, finding the most profitable and revenue generating sources in your pool and making them consistent. And we all have swim lessons, right? Most of us have regular swim lessons, 4-to-1 ratio, lifeguards, Red Cross, in-house swim lessons. And we might have a pretty good idea of what that profit margin is or what that ratio of expense or income is for swim lessons. What we want to dig into today is a little deeper than that. What happens when we want to get the babies? What happens when we want to get the 2.5-year-olds, the 2-year-olds, the moms and dads and babies, or aqua babies, or mom and tot, or parent, whatever you want to call it. But the non-3-year-olds, parent in the water, where we have higher ratios, we can make more money, we can teach them at different times of days, right? Because the kids are at home. And so how do we go to our boss and say, our learn to swim is good. We want more money, we want more classes, and we want to teach the babies. Phil, I think we're able to walk through some of that concept there virtually, but also I think it's a real life problem across the country and across the world of we've got this group of swimmers and we want to put them in the pool. But Tom, like you said, what's our budget? How much are we going to make? How much are we going to charge on everything beyond? What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's one of those things that as a facility, you want to try and promote the fact that it's never too early to start learning to swim, and having that time with your child in the water is a great bonding experience as well. Within the ACE system, we've actually created a really cool budget template that does all of the maths for you and all of the complicated things. I know when I was kind of first learning how to build budgets, and it can be a daunting world, and there's a lot of different things that you've got to try and learn. What sort of maths do you need to put in there, and how do you make it so that you can put the numbers in and everything pops up as it should? So what we've done at ACE is kind of do all of that hard work for you. So what we can do on this, if you want, I can load this up and then we can actually build a budget. Like, Wes, if you've got an idea of what sort of what's a typical scenario in terms of, we currently run the kind of 5 to 10-year-old lessons, but what do we do, if you want to talk us through an example of that, and then what we can do is use the tool to show you how it works. Out of the course of the year, how many weeks of the year do you reckon you would run if you were running eight lessons a term?
Let's say 40 out of 52.
So you'd run it over a 40-week term. So what we do up here is you change the number of weeks that you're going to be open for, or however long the program's going to go for.
No, we'll divide those in sections. Sorry, Phil, before anybody panics, that's 40 weeks divided over like 6 sessions, everybody. Not 40 straight weeks. Go ahead, Phil, but 40 in total.
Running in line with the school system, I presume, because that's how it works in New Zealand, is we run in line with the school term, roughly. So then what we've got is we've got an instructor. And how many hours do you reckon they would be going a week? So maybe 2 hours a day for 5 days a week. So they would be going for around about 10 hours. So you'd need 10 hours of swim instruction time, and we're going to pay them about $20 an hour. Yep. Check. So then what this does is this will then calculate. So this is how much it's going to cost you as an organization every week. This is how much it's going to cost a month, and this is how much it will cost per year. So this is really handy to just automatically calculate. And again, if we decided that we wanted to run for 50 weeks of the year, or you wanted to run year round and run 52 weeks of the year, including Christmas, you'd be mad. But what it will then do is then auto calculate, well, what does that mean over the entire period that you're trying to run this program?
If you wanted to run a tester, or a season.
Exactly. So if you wanted to run a tester and you wanted to run it for just 12 weeks only during the summer months, then what it'll do is it'll auto calculate what that is. But for the purpose of this, we'll keep it as a 40-week term. So what it does is it then auto calculates how much it's going to be in your instructor cost. And obviously, you know, in some facilities, you might need an additional lifeguard as well, just so we can kind of build out the budget properly. So you'd have an additional lifeguard on duty to help watch the kids, and they would be there for, again, the 10 hours a week. And
real quick, adversely, if you already have a lifeguard because they're already working, you can show $0 expense very cleanly to your boss to say there's no additional expense to have another class because lifeguard started. But just it goes both ways. So as you're watching this video, it gives you an argument on both sides. Hey, it saves us money or it earns us money based on the true expense. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
100%, yeah. And oh, sorry, Tom.
Speaking of that kind of line of thinking there, Wes, and being kind of on the outside and watching Phil push these numbers in, would you, when you're building something out like this, and Phil, you too, like when you're making it, would you, things like, obviously, I know you walk in the pool, there's got to be electricity on, there's got to be all sorts of stuff running in the background. Would you two usually build that in to this, or is that something, obviously you could build a whole nother calculator for your electricity, your gas, whatever you need to run the whole facility? Is that something you build into this, or would you wait and kind of build that as separate operational costs?
It really depends, and there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. So if it's a new build, for example, 100% I'll be including the electricity costs and all of that as part of this program because it offsets the cost of the pool. If the pool's already established and I've already got a program running and I'm just adding this program on top, the pool is, and as long as I'm not extending opening hours, if I'm running during my normal operation hours, then that cost has already been taken care of in either another aspect of the budget. And so there's really no need to prove. And what it does is it allows you to, again, offset the cost, or it definitely increase the amount of revenue that comes in that you're already spending that expenditure, you know?
Yeah, so you would build almost a whole separate other budget sheet for your other stuff there. Yeah, no.
Yep. But good question, because those costs do come into play. Susan, keep shaking. Sorry.
Yeah, and again, just so you know, this template has been used to build entire feasibility studies for brand new builds as well, you know, so any additional cost that you can go in there. But again, what we can do is we can say we add in the lifeguard cost and, you know, there isn't any additional cost for them at this point in time, and you'd pay your lifeguards how much per hour, Wes?
At least 16 to 18 with the new laws in the country, but let's say 18 an hour, 17 an hour. That's good.
We'll go bang in the middle. We'll go 17. But then, if you wanted to include your, you know, kind of costs of running the pool, you know, so your heating and etc., then what you would do in there is you could calculate what does the pool cost an hour to open.
Or your equipment, maybe, or your kickboards, or to your point, Tom, you can limit these as one-offs, and we'll get to the revenue in just a minute, but you're very smart to bring up the idea of what's it going to cost to do it. Do I have to buy kickboards? Yes, but I don't have to pay for those one time versus every 12 weeks. So you're very thoughtful in not only the chemicals in the operation, but what do I need to actually do? I need flippers and goggles, and but I'm only paying for them once, so I'm going to calculate them once. Versus the ongoing chemicals or pricing, but very good thought on true expense.
So you can add that any ongoing expense goes into this top column here, and then any one-off expense goes down here as well. So we can show you that as well. So again, just to I'll delete it in a second, but just say, you know, it costs you $15 an hour. You know, you're going to run it for 7 hours is what you're broken down per facility cost is. What it does is then add in, well, this is what it's going to cost a week, and then that will then affect this bottom line down here. So again, if I remove that and put that down to a 0, you'll see that drops down, and it's only calculating what's in there. So just for the sake of this, say for example, we are going to open the pool up for an extra, you know, 10 hours a week to be able to do it, and we're going to pay the lifeguard $17 an hour. Then we were just talking about kickboards, and we call them noodles over here. I've heard them called boggles. You know, whatever bit of equipment that you want to use. What you're doing here is you put in your equipment costs. So, and this is your one-off costs. So anything in this section here, you can add in your one-off costs. So there's going to be a one-off cost of equipment, and if we needed to buy, you know, let's say $1,000 worth of new equipment for this, like we want it to be the bells and whistles, we want all of the best kids toys, because we're going to be the best at delivering.
I want to teach that program.
Yeah, you know, again,
And have that boss.
In pools that I used to work in, we used to spend a lot of money on equipment because the equipment it showcases the quality of the swim school. If you've got noodles with bits bitten out of them and kickboards that are half in pieces, it doesn't give a good sign to the customer, which is, you know, one of the things that we'll probably talk about in a different podcast. So say, all right, if that's too much, let's say we'll go down to 500. We'll get 500 bucks worth of equipment. Then what we do, so down here we've got all of our costs. So we've got a one-off cost of $500, and it's going to cost us $370 a week, $1,600 a month, or $14,800 a year to run this program. And that's, yeah, incorporated. We'll talk on this bit down here. So then what we do is we've got participants.
So, and remember, these are our babies, right? So we talked about earlier, to your point, Tom, about money, and then we got to wrap this up for time. But let's say we get 10 kids. Well, that's 10 kids a half hour, remember? And these are 1 and 2 year olds. So their parent is also in the water. Anyway, but the idea is we might charge a little less, but we're going to have a lot more people per class. And if we do this for a full hour, we're doubling our numbers. So even if it's 8-to-1 ratio, that's 8-to-1 this half hour and 8-to-1 the next half hour. So we're, anyway, as
this is
listeners
where
view this,
the really cool thing about this spreadsheet comes in, because all you need to know is how much you're going to charge, and then you can work out your KPIs and your targets and how many people you're going to get in there. So per child, per lesson, how much would we charge on average? Is it about $10, $15?
Yeah, well, about 12 would be a safe, again, different environments, different parts of the country, but $12 a class, you know, would be a low medium, I think. Again, Aqua Babies, parent taught, high volume, high consistency. I think that'd be a safe bet. Yeah. And it's at least 6 to 8 kids per class, right? So we'll get to that in a minute, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that, again, I'm just doing some quick maths on a calculator here. So in terms of enrollments, if we were going to fill this program so that every, you know, there's 8 kids per class, that means we would get 32 kids per day in that 2 hours. And then you times that by the 5 days that we're running. So that gives you 160 enrollments. So if you were going to fill this program with that 10 hours, that would give you 160 enrollments. And then what this spreadsheet does is then it calculates, okay, you'll be spending $370 a week, but you'll be making $1,920 a week if you fill the program.
Then for those numbers, sorry, real quick, Phil, for those numbers, for those of you that have advanced programs, I have done 20-to-2 ratios, and we won't do the math, but 20 participants, 2 instructors every half hour. So and I cut Phil off, and I apologize, but I want everybody to know those numbers are scalable. If you can't hit 8, get 6. If you can get 8, make it 12. That's the whole point of this spreadsheet. It allows you to fluctuate your projections based on your demand, so you can get classes of 15 or 18 babies and have 2 instructors and add that cost to the top. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
No, all good. Perfect point. I mean, this is built so that you can put your numbers in there. So say, for example, I mean, I'm always shooting for the moon. Anybody that's ever worked with me will tell you that. So I'm always looking like, if I'm going to do it, I want to fill it. That's the goal. That's the KPI. But say, for example, you know, you're thinking we might be able to get 80 kids in the local region. Like 80 parents and kids is a realistic target to start with. Again, what it'll do is it'll start, you put in your numbers, you know, whatever works for your facility, your pricing, your cost of lifeguards, your cost of swim teachers, everything is entirely customizable to you and your existing operation. I know changing prices is a pain from living through that on many a time. So you work with the numbers that you've got, and you work with the established system, you know. So then what it does is it works out all of your income, and this is what you'll make per year. So if we half fill those classes, we're looking at $38,400 a year with a cost of $14,800. And that's where this spreadsheet is really cool, because what it then does is it takes out it makes the calculation between your revenue and your costs, and then it also includes your one-off costs, because that'll obviously only be a cost for the first year, unless you every year want to buy $500 worth of new equipment, which again, when I bought equipment, I bought a lot of it, but I wouldn't buy equipment very often.
Buy in bulk, baby.
Buy in
and
bulk,
then sell to your neighbors.
And then what it does down here is it works out, well, this is how much you will end up with after all of the kind of money comes out and everything's been done. Then this is what your annual total will be over the course of the year. So it's a really cool tool. You can customize it to any number of weeks and customize
And
it
rinse
to
and
any
repeat.
costs.
Any program, learn
program.
to swim,
Yeah.
Aqua Baby. So to Tom's point of the earlier conversation, of the point of the money, is you just copy and paste this and reprint it for what you need for the next session, for the next type of program, and just retitle it so that you don't have to use the same information for the same group, and it allows you to have that multiple business strategies.
Yeah, and again, when we were using this to build out, a kind of feasibility study, what was really cool was you could just rinse and repeat because the costs are roughly the same. Like, your cost of a lifeguard doesn't change, but what does change is this bit down the bottom. So having this template, you can just load up, change the items that you need to change, name it something else. It makes it so much simpler to be able to actually operate a facility, which is what we're here to do, is make it easier to be able to operate facilities and make sure the doors open for everybody. So yeah, any questions?
Make that money.
That? No, I was just gonna say, I mean, you could sit here and play on this tool all day, every day with different stuff in the venue, but no, I was gonna say this would be a good one if people can follow us along on YouTube and have any questions or want to see what it would look like if they put their stuff in. I feel like this is probably the best one to maybe start with in terms of interaction, and it's very user friendly. But no, I think hopefully everyone understood that. I mean, looking from the outside, it's quite easy to use.
And if they didn't, we'd happily set up a time with them to walk through. Tell us about your property. Let's walk you through it so you can see the scale and scope of the nuances of your own individual challenges or goals or the restrictions that your boss put on you or all that and more.
You might have ended up in charge and you don't know your operational costs, and we can obviously help with that as well. But no, I think that gave everybody a pretty good idea of how to run the budget there. But unless you guys have anything else, I think that probably wraps up episode 3. But like I said, hopefully like us on YouTube, comment any questions, just send them through to us, and we will see you guys next time for episode 4.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Yeah.